Hello, hello. I'm Lori Alvarez, and I welcome you to Real Estate with Soul, the podcast. This is where I will share my story, knowledge, wisdom, and the legacy in real estate, and my family, all boldly wrapped up in one with you. So let's get started. Still have a fantastic guest I'm so excited to have here today, Rebekah Hogan. I am so excited to have you tell everyone, one, how we know each other, and two, what do you do?
Okay, fabulous. I'm excited to be here, Lori. And so, how we know each other is that I was referred to Lori as my realtor, and she is absolutely amazing. Her and I hit it off fabulously whenever we met. I was definitely impressed with Lori's passion about constantly growing herself as a leader and working with her team. And it inspired me to really want to work with her.
Likewise.
Thank you. Yeah. And so sometimes we end up having ridiculously long conversations that really started off as like a 5-minute question. And I love it. So Lori's amazing realtor, and she sold 2 houses for me recently, actually, and amazing results.
Thank you.
What I do is, so I'm a business owner and entrepreneur. I've been in leadership roles my whole life. I am now focusing on life coaching, executive consulting, and working with businesses to help align their business strategy with their people strategy, with the owner's life strategy, right? So I'm working with people to help them come up with what their life brand is. And then how do you execute that across all domains of your life?
I love how you so humbly put it, what you do, right? Because, I mean, come on, here's the real deal. Like, she does a ton. Over the short period of time that I've gotten to know you, Rebekah, I know you manage multiple businesses, you own multiple businesses, and you do that like super successfully and authentically true to who you are. And I know that because you shared some great, um, what should I say? Some great recordings of who you are and what you are, and you just show up and you share like all of your failures with the world, which is what people really want to see. They don't want to see all the wins, right?
Well, that's just it. And I mean, honestly, you're not going to have the wins without the failures.
Amen to that, girlfriend.
I'm a huge believer that failure, we use it like it's an F word, right? Like it's the bad word. And it's not. I believe like, hey, let's change our mindset around that. And instead of calling it failure, let's call it feedback.
I love that.
Right? Because it's just, if it didn't work, if that approach didn't work, who we're talking to, how we're proposing it, what we're asking for, if it didn't work, then change your approach, change who you're asking, change what you're asking for. Because the only thing that really matters is the goal, right? What you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And so I'm a huge fan of just going face forward into failure.
Yeah. I love that. And that's why I wanted to have you on here today, Rebekah, because all month long on the podcast, we've been talking about mental health awareness. And I did not realize until as I've grown, and as you mentioned, I'm always about improving, right? So I move myself forward just because I just naturally want to. Like, I don't like to be stagnant. To me, that is so boring in life. And I don't understand that. My husband would say she doesn't understand the art of napping. He is correct. I don't get it, right? And yet there are so many people out there that do, and I respect that. So, it's just a different way of life. And through that, I've learned that you do actually need to rest, and you need to like grow yourself and move yourself forward. And everyone does it on a different timeline, and everyone does it in a different way. And everyone should, if they're not, do it authentically to who they are.
Right.
And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, because I know how aware you are of helping people move forward, because I've seen what you've done with yourself and what you continue to do with others. So what would you suggest or recommend to have a person move forward in their mental health?
Wow, that's a broad question there, Lori.
I know. Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to start with what I know is
Perfect.
being honest with yourself, right? To me, that is the absolute first place to start, because if you're not honest with yourself, you you can't really move forward, right? You're deceiving yourself on what the problem is, why you're feeling the way that you are. And so until you allow yourself to be honest with yourself, you're going to either stay where you're at or you're going to go backwards, actually. So being honest with yourself, first and foremost. I believe in not running away from your emotions. There's all sorts of ways that we can mask our emotions, right? Because who wants to feel bad? I don't like feeling bad. I had not like yesterday, but I had an emotional intelligence assessment, right? And
I
and
need to do that.
they told me that you don't access all of your emotions, and I'm like, oh no, I get pissed off real well. Um, yes, I do. No, it's I enjoy feeling good, and I have learned over the last couple of years amazing tools, techniques, and resources to feel good. The thing is that we also need to accept when we feel bad, because there's a lesson, there's something we need to learn. And as long as we're not being honest with ourselves and we're ignoring it, we're tampering it down, we're masking it. I used to drink to just make it null and void, right? To ignore it. And so when we do that, we don't really get the lesson, right? And so it repeats over and over again until you get the lesson.
Yeah.
And so you keep exposing yourself to it because you're choosing to ignore what the true lesson is. And so I believe in feeling the emotion. I'm not saying that I need to stay there for a long period of time, but I have to admit what it is. And then I have to ask myself, that's interesting. Why is that coming up? And
Yes.
that's where the getting honest with yourself comes into play, right?
Yeah.
Why is that coming up? Because 99.9% of the time, it is not the other person, it is me. It is
Yes.
my perception. It is what I'm projecting out there, or what I'm not doing or giving to myself. And so I'm expecting it out of someone else, right? So I get angry because they're not giving me what I need. Well, no, I can't count on anybody to give me what I need. I am the only person that can give me what I need. And the honest, beautiful part of it is that once you recognize what you need and you give yourself permission to give yourself what you need, everybody else starts giving you that same support too. The thing
Yeah.
is, you can't see it. You can't see it in other people until you see it in yourself.
Yes. I
And so,
love that, right? Because I'm a big believer in you attract where you are in your life and what you're feeling in your life.
sure.
You just move forward in that. So one of the bold laws that I've learned in a training program that I've been through 9 times. I'm a repeater of great things because they just get better and better every time you do them. Right? I'm that
Yes.
person. And so one of the things is what you focus on expands, right? And so if you continue to focus on the negative aspects of what's happening in your life rather than the positive aspects, well, guess what? More negativity just keeps coming at you. And if you shift that perspective, like you said, into something positive, and and here's the truth, and I saw it on your LinkedIn profile, right? And that's one of the things that I love about you is you get language, right? The words you choose to use set you up for wins and failures or feedback, as you
Huge.
said.
They're huge.
Yes.
I mean, words matter. Words
Yeah.
matter, right? Because I mean, it's how we perceive the words, right? So it all comes down to our perception. And so for us, the language is huge, because failure. feedback. Which one sounds better,
Yeah.
right?
I
And
love feedback.
okay, or oh my gosh, Rebekah, that was so stupid, or oh my gosh, I'm so silly,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
There's or even with employees or our kids. Oh my gosh, our kids, right? They're so lazy. No, they're not lazy. They're just unmotivated.
Yes.
So how do we motivate them?
Yeah.
Or we're not lazy just because we don't have the energy, just because we're not feeling it, because we're not in that fabulous place. That doesn't mean that we're lazy. That doesn't mean that we don't deserve. It just means that right now we haven't been able to tap into our motivation,
Yeah.
right? And so whenever you change those words, you open yourself up to the possibility of what can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I don't even know how I came across this when I was a young mom, because I'm, as everyone that knows me, and if you don't, like, I have 4 sons, right? So I'm a mother of 4 boys, and boy, do they keep me hustling, and they're all like big and athletic. So that's why I do the things that I do, right? So that I can keep up with them. But when they were young boys, I used to say, "Don't be a bad boy." And then one day, like I said, "No, use the word disobedient." And
Right?
I shifted my language. I don't even know why that happened. And I shifted it, and it made such a difference in the way the boys responded to me, right?
Huge difference. So mine with my daughter is fabulous young lady, despite how I raised her. Um, in spite of, right? I'm not going to take the credit. She's amazing. One of the things though that I recognized very early on as a parent was I saw all of these parents telling their kids no, no, don't do that, no. And what do kids do? They mimic you, right? And because that's how they learn, that's their feedback, right? So they mimic you. And so I did not want my daughter waving her finger at me telling me no. And so I decided I will use the word unacceptable because it does not have the negative connotation
Yes,
that no has. It's not the brick wall that no is.
yes.
And she couldn't pronounce it for 2.5 years. so so I would just tell her, I'm sorry, young lady, that's unacceptable behavior.
Yeah,
No, this is not acceptable. We don't touch hot pans.
yes,
Right?
yeah,
And but instead of saying you're being bad, I would say no, that's not acceptable.
right.
And the funniest time, she'll probably kill me for telling the story, but one of the funniest times was she was 2.5 and she got really, really upset over something. And she turned to me and she's like, that's not acceptable.
I love it.
And it was
I love it.
fabulous because she understood that this is what you say when you don't want to tolerate the situation.
Yes,
But it's
yes,
not saying no. What
yeah,
unacceptable means is choose a different behavior,
yes,
right?
yes. You have options, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's one of the things that I was surprised at how much I read, about when I was doing the research on mental health and preparing for this month of conversations. Like, I was surprised at how many people commit suicide. It was
Ugh,
like, oh my gosh. And then all the
it's
different
frightening.
types of mental health issues out there.
Yeah.
It and so much of it stems from just the language that we're using
Hmm.
within ourselves and around others and from others, how
Yeah.
that could have been corrected or done differently so that they could have been set up for success, right?
Absolutely.
So, what are some techniques that people could start using that you would recommend to help empower them to have a more positive mindset? Because that's what you and I are really talking about today is the positive mindset behind moving our lives forward to the success of whatever our personal success is, right?
Right.
Not what you believe the world sees it as, but really what is your personal success?
Yeah. So tools and techniques for mindset. The quickest one, I have two that are like really, really simple. Um, One of my favorite is just gratitude, right?
Yeah.
When we are focusing on what we are grateful for, it is impossible to, in that exact moment, to feel negative emotions. When you focus on gratitude, that is the state that you end up taking on, and that in turn changes your behavior,
Yes.
right? And so when you focus on gratitude, when you think about things that you are absolutely grateful for, it's like facing forward, okay? And whenever you're thinking about the things that aren't, that you don't have, that you wish you had, or you wish you hadn't done, or the fear of what might happen, that's like facing backwards, right? And the moment that you decide to, what am I grateful for? And I tell people, get granular. I love this, right? Because we can all say, oh, I'm just grateful for my whole life.
Right.
No, well, I promise you that there's times when you're not grateful for your whole life.
Right. Right.
Or people say, I'm grateful for my friends and family. No, I know we are grateful for our friends and family, but there's also times when they really tick us off, right? And so there are times, so I can, when I'm thinking of my friends and family, I can also think about negative things too, right? So if I get very granular, like there was one morning I was getting ready for work and my feet were freezing on the cold tile. And I thought, I am so thankful that I can, one, walk barefoot in my house and it's clean and I have a nice house and I have nice tile in
Yes.
my bathroom floor.
Yes.
Two, I can feel that tile. I can feel it. There are people that don't have the luxury to feel that. There are people, I was talking to my mom about this and she's like, oh, you're lucky that you can stand up while you put your makeup on and do your hair. My back starts killing me and I can't stand up, right? And so when you get so granular in that moment, there's no negative that can be related to it, right? It's just the positive, and then it leads you to all of the other positives.
Yeah.
When it's freezing cold outside, how lucky are we that we can go outside? Especially, oh, like the pandemic, right? You go for a walk and it's like freezing cold outside, but hey, we get to get out of our house, right?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
get to smell the air. I get to enjoy these things.
Yeah.
And so gratitude is first and foremost quickest way to just get you facing a different direction, right?
Yeah. I appreciate that because and you're completely unaware of this. So I think it's so interesting that you chose the feet, right?
Right.
Because my mom, on last Thursday went through spinal surgery
Oh,
and she's had numbness in her feet for the last, probably 7, 8 weeks, right? And she's not been able to walk and she's not been able to move forward in a way that she normally was. She was active and healthy and danced and had so much fun. And right now she's going through so much. And the other day, I just wanted to like break down and cry because I'm like, oh, my mom, I'm so worried about her. And I'm so like, she's my mother. Right. And then I was like, I'm gonna I'm gonna do this for her, right? And I'm gonna do this because that's what I know she would want from me. So,
right.
and she's almost got feeling back. It's gonna be a little bit of
That's
time,
nice.
but I mean, it's so truthful, and I think it's really hard to shift from that negative mindset of, "Oh my gosh, I can't feel my feet. I can't walk," like your mother said, like it kills her back, and my mom couldn't even stand up for and still can't because she's still recovering. Like, you know, we forget the
Right.
blessings that we have when we're moving forward. And, you know, how do you shift that mindset to be grateful? And I would, it's 100% what you just said, right? It's getting down to the little tiny itty bitty seeds.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because I can be grateful for my husband, right?
Yeah.
I can also be really frustrated with him too, right? I mean, you know, I And so, but I can be, whenever I think about him clearing the table and rinsing the dishes for me today,
Yes.
that is like, I'm so grateful for that.
Yes.
So like last night, whenever he does that, it's like, oh, I've had a long day and I get to actually relax. And in that moment, there's so much gratitude, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not well, and it takes time, right? Because it's like you were talking about, negativity and positivity. It takes practice, right?
Yes.
And practice makes perfect, and the more you do it, the easier it gets on either side.
Right.
For negativity, the more negative you are, the more you focus on that, not only does it feel like the more we get it or we feel it, that it's reciprocated
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
That's because that's what our brain is looking for, right?
Right.
We're looking for that because that's where we're focused on. But the same thing when we focus on positivity, we're looking for those positive affirmations. We're looking for that confirmation.
Yeah.
And but it takes practice. And
Yes.
so when you start with, I tell people start with the easy stuff
Yeah.
and the real granular stuff. Okay, my cat, right? Go to the fur babies.
Yeah.
Even when they tear your
Precious.
shoes up or go potty on the floor, you
Yes.
still love them,
Yeah.
right? No matter what, you forgive them, you love them. You never wish that they would leave, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so start with something so pure and simple,
Mm-hmm.
and then go deeper,
Yeah.
because the more you practice it, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
And so to go a step further, right, and that gratitude, and the more you practice it, the easier it gets. The next thing that I do is I try to look for the positive, right? I reframe the situation. you know um, Traffic on the 405, right? I can get really upset that someone cut me off on the freeway, or I can go, wow, they must have an emergency. I hope that they get there safely and on time,
Yeah.
right? I can choose a different way to look at it. And so looking for the positive, my brother the other day was like, oh, I have to work on Sunday. And I'm like, and can you find a positive in that, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, you're going to make more money that you didn't know that you had the opportunity to make, right? So how will you reward yourself? What can you do with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And so once you get better at just finding the gratitude, then you can start expanding out into, in those negative situations, what is the good? What can I learn from it? Or can I flip this to look more positive?
Mhm.
Right? Flip the script, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you and I love what you said, right? Like practice makes perfect. We slowly move forward in that because I can look back on my life and I can say, "Oh, Lori was not miss get up at 4 a.m. and work out," right? I had literally my dad gave me a sweatshirt that said, "I'm not a morning duck," right? And it was a black ugly ducky. And I wore that from the time I was like 13 until the time I was like 23, right? Because I just hated getting up early in the morning. And now everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, what time do you get up?" And they're like so impressed with it. And I'm like, I don't know. It just like happened one day. Like I felt the need to do this. And my brain now just says, like, I want to do this.
So that is where the life brand comes into play,
I
right?
love that.
So, because that is your life brand, because you made a decision that this is how I want to show up. And in order to show up this way in my life for people that I love, for people that I care about, for people that I help, people I want to inspire, for people that I've never met before,
Mhm.
right? This is how I want to show up for me.
Yes.
This is how I want to show up. And you made that conscious choice,
Mhm.
and this is what I have to do to show up that way. I have to work out in the morning because I need that energy, because it creates all the fabulous hormones that just are better than any drug that exists out there, right?
Yeah.
All these fabulous hormones. And so this is your life brand. And that's why I was automatically drawn to you whenever we first started talking, is because I could tell that you live your life brand.
Oh, thank you.
So, so
I mean, what does that mean? Tell me, life brand. I love that
so
language.
right, I chose the name of my company,
Yes,
Markah Vida,
right.
because for years, decades now, I've I've seen this pattern that people are told that this is what happiness looks like. This is what success looks like. This is what it means to live the perfect life. And you people wake up and they're 40 years old and they go, where did half of my life go? I don't enjoy what I'm doing. I don't love what I'm doing. I have the house, I have the cars, I have the 2.5 kids, and I have all the stuff, but I'm not happy
Yeah,
because it's someone else's definition of happiness. It's
yeah,
someone else's definition of success. And we get thrown into life based on other people's expectations. And I think sometimes we get so busy adulting that we don't stop to say, what kind of adult do I want to be? What legacy do I want to leave, right? And whenever I say legacy, I mean spiritual legacy, emotional legacy, value driven legacy. What legacy do I want to leave on society? Not how much money do I want to leave to my kids, how many buildings and houses, and how big is my portfolio legacy. What is my personal legacy? And whenever you stop and think about that, then you can choose how does that relate to a life brand. We talk about brands all the time, right? And we're attracted to and we're drawn to brands. Why can't we have our own personal brand? And so if we say, what do I want my brand to be? How do I want to appeal to people? How do I want to find success and happiness? What is my definition? And then you orchestrate how you show up and what that means, and you live intentionally. And so this has been on my heart for ages because I think that we get so caught up in going through the motions and we don't live intentionally.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I've never thought, I've never thought of my life brand, right? I've been aware of my brand through my business, and my life and my business come together as one. So I've branded myself, right? Uh,
Right.
in a very professional manner so that they are authentic to me and who I am. So I just show up in my business the way I would show up in my life. And I do those two together. But I love that. I love that, Rebecca, that like I mean, it really starts right there, right? It's who you are in your life that when you get to that place and you go, "Okay, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is how I'm moving me forward," that you can really do everything else well. It has to
Right.
start there.
Right. Because if you don't do that, how can you lead people? How can, I mean, we don't want to build more managers. We want to build leaders, right? Because if everybody were leaders, would we need a million managers? We want to build leaders, right? And how can you lead and how can you inspire other people to lead when you don't even know what is at the core of your values,
Yeah.
of who you are, what your life brand is,
Mhm.
right? And I think that sometimes people feel like, oh, well, I have to do this to make the money or to buy the cars and all the fancy stuff so that people will view me a certain way, right? There's all this societal pressure of how I need to show up. And we take jobs based on that rather than, and we go down career paths based on what we think we're supposed to do so that we can be what everybody else wants us to be. And how empowering would it be to actually do it backwards, right? Do it, and well, actually, I say forwards, right? I think we're doing it backwards right now, and in general. And I think that we need to do it forward. We need to start with who am I? What is important to me? And then allow that to dictate all of the rest of the decisions that you make in your life instead of what does everybody want me to be and how do I do that? And hopefully, if I do that, then I'll feel good enough about myself that I'll be happy.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So share with me, how does your company, Markah Vida,
Mhm.
help people with that
Right.
particular situation?
Right. So it is coaching from looking at all aspects of life, right? Sometimes you'll have coaches for business, you'll have coaches for fitness, you'll have coaches for health, you'll have coaches for mental health, you'll have your therapist over here, and they're looking at one aspect of your life. And you can't look at just one aspect of your life because it's what's happening everywhere else that is preventing you, whether or not it's true or it's something that we believe in our head that is preventing us from excelling in that area. So you have to look at all aspects of your life. And then I help to come up with what are your values, what is important, right? And where are you putting your energy? And how is that congruent with your values? Right? So we get clarity around who you are, what you want, how you're spending your time to start creating strategies and plans to create that balance, to be spending time in the areas that are the most important to you. Because a lot of times we spend time in the areas that are the least significant to us as a person,
Yeah.
but it's what we feel like we have to do.
Yeah.
And I especially focus on working with small business owners. And people say, oh, well, small business owners. Well, small businesses, as you and I know, are not necessarily small.
Yes.
But so it's not like, oh, I'm just working with people that have 2 employees. It's just I'm working with people in the basic definition of small businesses, really focusing on people that have less than 100 employees. Because when you have less than 100 employees, your business can be something that you feel like you're hostage to, or it can be a point of inspiration and empowerment to live the life that you want.
Yes.
And so it's important to make sure that your values and your life brand are congruent with your business values and your business strategy. And then through that, we look at the people strategy. Do we have the right people on board? Because I mean, as an employee, people know how much good they can do for a company, and they've seen people do so much bad for a company, right? And so we know that people are the most important ingredient. So if we focus on having the right people in the right seats for the business strategy, the strategy that we've defined aligns with your personal strategy, now we've got people on board that will be inspired by us because they believe in the strategy that we're moving towards, right? And so you have so much more congruence in all those areas that it actually frees you up to focus on your health, to focus on your fitness, to focus on your mindset. Because I mean, honestly, how are you going to show up well and focus on your mindset whenever you're up all night worried about this person showing up and this problem with between these 2 employees and we're not making money and all of these things that are so abstract that are pulling at your mind? So we have to look at them all together. We can't look at them as a silo.
Yes. I love that. And I want people to really hear how important values are. Because I don't think, this is just my personal perspective, right? I didn't know what type of business I was moving forward or leaving until I sat down and really defined my values.
Yes.
And once I defined my values, boy, I was really able to lean into every decision I made
Yes.
subject to those values, right?
100%.
And
100%.
and and when you do that, and if you can get someone like Rebekah Hogan who can help you get there, because that's not easy to do. That's not easy to say like, "Oh, what's important to me?" Right? Because everything becomes important at once. I mean, I still woke up this morning at 2 a.m. thinking, "Oh my gosh, did my son order the termite tents and are they going on the properties so that my owners will get possession on the days that they're supposed to?" Like my brain at 2 a.m. just like all of a sudden exploded. And in that moment I said, "Hey, you're not gonna wake your son up at 2 a.m., and you value sleep right now because you have to get up at 4 a.m. to do the health and fitness program that's so important to move your day forward. So go to sleep." And I was
Yeah.
able to do that, right? Um,
Mhm.
because I know what's most important to me and to
Yes.
my son who works for me to move our business forward. And I was
Right.
stressing over nothing because I texted him at 8:30 and he was like, "I got it,
Done.
mom. It's all done. It's been taken care of. What are you stressing about?" I'm like, "I'm good. I'm so sorry I doubted you." Right?
Well, and that just is, goes to show, like, because you know what's your values are,
Yes.
and the people that you have working for you, regardless of whether or not it's your son or
Mhm.
or somebody totally not related, they know what's important to you.
Yes.
And so they align themselves to get done what's important for you. Because if we know in a moment of needing to make a decision, even in a moment where there is not clarity, I don't know if this is a good decision or not. If we know the values, then we can say, is this in alignment with the values?
Yeah.
And if it's not in alignment with the values, what is another option, right? You look for a different solution that is in alignment with those values. But if you don't have those values defined, it's like driving a car with zero direction.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go for a drive
Yeah.
and I'm going to go across country, right? I'm going to get there,
Yeah.
and it can take you 3.5 days to get across country if you have a very
Yeah.
well mapped out plan, maybe less, I don't, maybe two,
Yeah.
depending on if you have a co-driver. But you can get there very quickly, or it could take you years
Yeah.
to get to the other side of the country because you're making all these turns that you don't know where you're going,
Yeah. You
right?
know what, Rebecca, I love this, right? Because one, you just like my light bulb just went off in my head, right? Because I didn't even put that together why my son knew I needed all of that to be taken care of. Because he never communicates like I want to communicate, which is
Right.
just tell me you did it, right? Like
Right.
he communicates on a very different level. And, uh, but you just connected 2 dots for me, right? That said, he knows mom's values. He knows his boss's values. He knows our team values, our team real estate business legacy. He knows what that is. And so that is why he achieved the things that we needed done, right?
I Well, and I'm going to go a step further, and I'm going to tell you, I can promise you almost like at 100% that if he hadn't have done that, he would have been the one waking up at 2 a.m. in the morning going, oh no, I didn't do this,
Right.
because he knows your values.
Yeah.
And inherently, as humans, we want to succeed. We
Mhm.
want to win. We want to do what's right,
Yeah.
right? And so if he knows what winning looks like, if he knows what doing it right looks like, his mind is going to wake him up at 2 a.m. going, you didn't do it. Oh
Yeah.
no. And he's
Yeah.
going to be the one panicked, not you,
Yeah. Yeah.
because he knows what the expectations are.
I love that. So, as we close this up right now, and we bring the conversation to an end, I want people to hear, like, if you can have someone like Rebecca who walks you through those values, right? Walks you through that journey of like, what is important to me? How do I get there? And where do I want to end up? Because that's the reality of it is a lot of people don't even know where to start with that because I didn't know where to start with it. And I didn't know how important it was until after I'd done it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow. And the same thing happened for my daughter in love when I walked her through that in a program that we did together as well. Like she went back and made huge changes in her life. So I just say, and I encourage every one of our listeners, like if you don't know how to do that, there are people like Rebekah specifically, who can help you get to that place that you're looking for so that you know what your personal success is. Rebekah, what would you like to leave with people? And then, of course, you need to tell them how they can find you.
So, um, the biggest the biggest statement that has ever impacted me is I stand for what I tolerate. And for the longest time, I didn't get what that meant. And one day, light bulb went off where I understood what that means is to stand for something is to represent it, right? And if
Oh,
I'm tolerating things in my life
yeah.
that aren't in alignment with who I want to be, I'm telling the whole world that that's what I stand for. And I'm telling myself that that's what I stand for, that that's what I represent. So I ask people, what are you tolerating that really is not what you want to stand for? Because that is the first place to stop. Start and ask yourself that question. And that helps you move forward. And then now that is your mirror to gauge the rest of your all of your actions on is what am I tolerating that I don't want to stand for? And how do I make changes for that? Because it is our option, it is our right, and we are lucky enough to be able to make those changes. And we are the only ones that can make those changes.
Amen
And
to that.
so, I mean, we have to own our results, right?
Yes.
They're nobody else's results except for our own.
Yes.
And so this is the first best place to start. That's the quickest. There's all sorts of places to start.
Yes.
It's just the quickest way to get there is to
Yeah.
first know what you want, right?
Yes.
So that's the biggest thing that I can tell people is get clear on what you want. Once you know what you want, you can get clear on how to get there. And it will open up for you.
And that's exactly what you do. You can help
Yes,
people do that.
absolutely, absolutely, because it can be a lonely road, and that's where I got so passionate about going down into this business is because I did this.
Yeah.
I went through this.
Yeah.
And so I know what it's like to I'm going to say being aimless, just going through the motions
Yes.
and not having the motivation and not knowing what I'm working towards
I love
and
it.
not feeling any sense of satisfaction, right? And so I know what it's like. And I've gone through all sorts of different techniques and processes and different ways to get there. And if I would have known then what I know now, or if I had someone to work with that could have helped me get there so much faster, it, I mean, you can't look back and go, oh, I wish I had that time back because
Right.
it was all lessons learned,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
But wouldn't we all like to be on the right path today instead of next year?
Yeah.
Right? And so it's just how quick do you want to see change?
Yes. I love that.
And so, yeah.
We know I'm a big, big believer in coaching. And that's exactly what you do, Rebekah. You help people get there, right? And if you have a coach, they do it faster, right? You just get there faster on your own pace, like in your own way, but you still get there because you have someone like you who's just like, yes, I'm here and I'm going to help you see it from a different perspective.
That's the key right there is the perspective, right?
Yeah, it is. It is 100%. So where can people find you? And, we're going to put that all in the show notes too, as well. We're going to share all that forward. But where can people find you? Where's the best
So
place?
you can find me online on my website, which is markahvida.com, and that's Markah. So it's Mark with an because we should all be living our lives with an So Markah Vida, Vida.com. Real quick, that means translated like, so Markah is brand, and Vida is life. So it's your life brand.
Yeah, I
What
love
is
it.
your Markah Vida? So you can find me at markahvida.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, Markah Vida or Rebekah Hogan.
Yeah. And I follow her Instagram. She's got great stuff there. I follow you on all your social media because that's just who I am.
I
And
love you. Thank you.
you have fantastic stuff there. I'm gonna get you to do a TikTok sooner or later too.
That'll be new and fun and exciting. Stepping out of my box.
Excellent. I just love. Thank you so much for spending this time with us and sharing this information. And I'm just extremely grateful. I'm going to go right back to where we started, right? Go to gratitude and just say, I'm extremely grateful for the relationship that we formed
Me
through the
too.
blessing of my business, right? I just love watching that happen in my life. That is just, it's the coolest thing. And I get new cool people like you who become friends to me. And I'm so thankful and grateful for you. Thank you.
I am so thankful for you too, Lori. You are an inspiration.
Oh, you're awesome. Thank you so much.